What is the math? What is the mathematics? What is the math? What is the mathematics? What is the mathematics of today? What can I say?
Poet, activist, and visionary Sekou Sundiata, a friend of this program, is being remembered in a retrospective curated by MAP International Productions. It's called Blink Your Eyes, and performances have been happening all over New York this year. They're wrapping up in October with an event at Harlem Stage. Participants include rockers Toshi Reagon and Ani DeFranco, performance artist Hancock Rux, and a world of poets, as well as today's guest, Nona Hendryx. Why are such luminaries taking time to pay homage to this extraordinary poet and composer who passed away tragically in 2007? Well, to help us answer that big, important question, we are very excited to have Nona with us. She's an activist, a musician, an actress, a producer, a wearer of many hats. You may know her from her time with La Belle or her own amazing solo career. Nona's here to talk about working with Blink Your Eyes and the importance of Sekou Sundiata's work. Nona, welcome.
Thank you, Laura.
For those who have never heard of Sekou Sundiata, poor dears,
yes.
why are so many, so busy people showing up to celebrate him?
I think part of it is because he was such an integral part of New York, an integral part of the poet downtown scene, uptown scene, and stretching all the way across all the boroughs. He brought people together. He was an organizer, as you say, and I think that's the heart of who he was. But on top of that, he was an amazing poet, and he also was an amazing performer.
Let's play a little clip of your performance from this summer. Let's play it.
It's one in the world is revolution. In revolution. In these hard times. People keep dropping revolution like it's a pickup line. Don't they? 1, 2, 3, 4. What in the world is revolution in these hard times? In these hard times,
Yes, this was called Sisters of Sekou, and that was with Toshi Reagon and with Sandra St. Victor, and we were performing our music and intertwining Sekou's music into ours, and dropping revolution like it's a pickup line is a great, my choice, the one I wanted to do, and that was interwoven with The Revolution Will Not Be Televised by another great poet.
He's been called a performance poet, an activist poet, a black arts poet. He called himself a ritual poet. Does it matter? I mean, what do you call him, his work?
Sekou falls into my category of a town crier. And that to me goes all the way back to how people got their information in the past, that somebody was willing to step out and say what was going on and let people know what was happening. And that's what I feel he was. He was all those other things as well, but he was really about bringing community together. And again, I think if you're an organizer at heart, but then you do many other things on top of it.
He came up through the 60s and was an activist in the student movement and in the black arts movement.
Yes.
How did you cross paths with Sekou Sundiata?
Actually, I met him through Craig, the trombonist that he worked with for many years, and he was working on Tongues of Fire. And that's when I became involved with Sekou, working on one of the shows that he did uptown. And we just became really good friends, and he did another performance, asked me to be a part of it, and I think maybe 4 or 5 times we worked on different projects together.
And in light of the impact of Sekou's work and his role here in the city, I was surprised to be reminded there are actually not that many recordings, just one book of poems.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, I think he was more a live artist. I mean, poets were not, other than comedian kind of poets, were not recorded that often. We recorded as La Belle with Nikki Giovanni back in, I think, the 70s.
Another extraordinary performance poet of that time.
Yes, and there aren't that many poets who have been recorded. You have Maya Angelou with Ashford and Simpson. So finding a record company or an entity that would record a poet because they mean so much to the community or to spread the word, is not so easy. Finding someone who would take on someone like Sekou Sundiata and what he has to say, you have to have someone like Ani DeFranco.
Which is who he found in the end, a student
Yes.
of his,
Yes,
who then ended up recording him for her own record label, Righteous Babe.
yes, which is where my record is now. Yes.
Let's play a clip put together by Mercury Records, promoting a piece of a recording by Sekou that draws on an interview he did with Bill Moyers and talks about the roots of the work, the musical traditional roots, and the power of the language. Sekou was onto some topics at least a decade and a half ahead of his time. One of those is Stop and Frisk. Here's Sekou Sundiata.
We will hear from the performance poet, Sekou Sundiata.
What you dream up is deeper than what you know.
Sundiata's poetry recalls the ancient tradition of combining the spoken word with music.
Welcome to the mainland. I was on my way to see my woman, but the law said I was on my way through a red light.
If you saw my woman, you could understand if I did, but I didn't. It wasn't about no light, it was about my ride. If you saw my ride, you could dig that too. You dig? Sunroof, stereo, radio, black leather bucket seats sit low. You know the body's cool, but the tires are warm.
Ride when the hard times come, ride when they're gone.
In other words, the light was green. Up to the window come the law with his hand on his gun. What's up? What's happening? I said, I guess that's when I really broke the law. He said a routine, step out the car. A routine, assume the position. Put your hands up in the air. You know the routine like you just don't care. License and registration. Deep was the night and the light from the North Star on the car door. I could see deja vu, we've been through this before. Why did you stop me? Somebody had to stop you. I watch the news, you always lose. You're unreliable, that's undeniable. This is serious, you could be dangerous. I could wake up in the morning without a warning. My world could change. Blink your eyes, all depends on the skin. All depends on the skin you're living in.
All depends on the skin you're living in. All depends on the skin. All depends on the skin. The skin. Skin you're living in.
That poem, Blink Your Eyes, by Sekou Sundiata, I could see it now being performed at the demonstrations against Stop and Frisk in New York, couldn't you?
Yes, you can. I mean, he had so much to say about current issues and also the things that were kind of the underbelly that we don't, or undercurrent that underground that we don't really see until they bubble to the top. And that's why I think he was always ahead of time with what he was sharing, because he would tap into that and wasn't afraid to bring it forward to people.
Now, one of the reasons that he was able to do that straddling of sort of the down below and the surface, this extraordinarily outwardly directed and brilliant performer poet, whom I had the pleasure of knowing through our mutual friendship with June Jordan, he could tap into the below because he also was struggling.
Yes.
He had struggled with a heroin addiction early in his life.
Yes.
He had kidney disease, that's partly as a result, that he wrote about in Blessing the Boats. Talk about that a little. Did you know much about that, and what difference did that make to his work, that he was up against that
Yeah,
struggle?
I did know about it, and I think because he was able to take that and turn it into a strength, I think it was important. I think that was also the importance, because he was of the street in a way, but not the street, and he did rise above it and was willing to also bring others with him. You know, when you don't have a fear of what's considered the for lack of another word, the darker side, you walk differently. He carried himself differently, and he also treated others. He had great respect for other human beings, and I think when you meet someone like that, you are supportive of him. You want to be with him. You want to hear what he has to say, and he was willing to listen. He was a listener as well.
One of the things that MAP has produced for this incredible retrospective is a timeline of Sekou's life that shows his work in the early 70s, late 60s as a student at City College, pulling together this relatively privileged students of color with the neighborhood students, with things like hangouts and mentorship dinners. Now that was a tradition he continued throughout his life. I took part in a citizenship dinner.
Yes.
In the 2007, probably, shortly before he died. He took the performance off the stage, I guess is the point.
Yes. No, and that's a great experience. I've experienced it in other ways with other people, but not particularly with Sekou. And it is a great way to share information and to build relationships so that you then care about each other and then the extended people from the person who is at a dinner or at a gathering.
And he was just a genius at asking the right question that got people around a table talking about their lives. That's
what I meant by, he was a listener, because he would listen, and then, because spending time with him in the times that I did, his presence was there, but he was quiet in a way. But when he spoke, it was very, he sort of cut away a lot of the stuff.
We'll play a little bit more of Sekou before we close, but what's coming up? What is this finale event at Harlem Stage? What will you be doing? And is it too late to get tickets, do you think?
I don't think so. I'm sure there are tickets. Hopefully, maybe they're not. But a lot of the people who've worked on the different events that celebrated Sekou over the year will come together on stage, and it's the We the People dark cabaret that he started, happening with people like Hancock Rux. I'm sure Toshi and some of the other people will be involved, and I will perform either a solo piece or a duet with someone. So I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be yet, so you'll have to come and see.
Do you have a closing message for people who maybe still have yet to be inspired enough to go and check out the work of Sekou Sundiata?
Oh, go. I mean, your life will only be enriched by knowing him. And even if you disagree, you will have something with which to disagree that is intelligent.
It's beautiful work. We all recommend it. Check it out.
Yeah.
Nona Hendryx, thanks for joining us to celebrate the work of Sekou Sundiata.
I think people have been really beaten up and abused by language to the point where they've become distrustful, that language somehow has gotten to the point, much of language, I should say, where people don't know whether they can trust it or not.
Political language, propaganda, commercial
advertising, it doesn't mean what it says.
In the beginning, 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 black and shining was our X. See, you got the circle of the mind, and you got the circle of the blood, and you got the pi and the square root, but that's another bop. Now the circle of the blood, that's what we come in with. Tobacco, roll, kunta kinte, African mambadas, like that. Now you can turn your back on the circle of blood, but you come out something strange, what the philosophy called alienation, because blood is the transportation system for demons and oxygens and goddesses and get to your brain. But never else and never less you can separate yourself from the circle, but that's another bop. Now the circle of the mind, that's what we was after. The elevation of principle over pigmentation, content of the character, not what's on the head, but what's in the head, approach to the predicament, beginning with what's in the name, ain't no rose. This I know. You mean to say a colored Negroistic nigga by any other name would smell the same? I don't think so.
Haters grow all around us. We gotta keep the faith, gotta believe and trust. All we can do if we only do it right. Somebody say